الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي آمين يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, dear brothers and sisters, welcome back inshaAllah ta'ala to our next juz. And as you can see, is that after we've spoken about in regards to unity, now we're talking about, what did we say? I hope you remember. We're talking about the preservation of mankind individually and that which protects them. Remember, as even the book as it starts in a very beautiful and subtle manner saying what? Man is a weak creature. They literally march on the cosmos and they walk on this earth, not knowing, and very little do they know, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that literally preserves them. Allah is the one that protects them. Allah is the one that provides them care. And the angels that are on our shoulders and all those which are given the duty to protect us, they have that responsibility until when Allah says, now let go, khalas, that's what happened next is that we get injured, something happens to us. But there are issues which relate to ourselves. Regardless of that, there are other issues which relate to our souls, our nafs, our minds, our thoughts, basically our emotions and how we deal with them. They are not going to be in alliance and in accordance to that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be like, and how He wants us to preserve ourselves and maintain our inward self as well. Why am I saying this? It's because you notice that as the juz begins, the next thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about is what? About marriage life. When people are married, and what are the type of women that you should not marry for men. And on top of that, Allah says, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُبَيِّنَ لَكُمْ. Allah wants to clarify issues to you. وَيَهْدِيَكُمْ سُنَنَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. And guide you to the path of those who were there before you, of the prophets and the righteous ones. And on top of that, وَيَتُوبَ عَلَيْكُمْ. And the following verse, what does He say? وَاللَّهُ يُرِيدُ أَن يَتُوبَ عَلَيْكُمْ. And Allah wants to do what? To forgive you. وَيُرِيدُ الَّذِينَ يَتَّبِعُونَ الشَّهَوَاتِ أَن تَمِيلُوا مَيْلًا عَظِيمًا. But on the flip side, on the opposite side, those who are drenched and deep in their desires, they're more or less people that worship their own emotions. They follow that which their minds tell them, their thoughts, what they process as ideas, that's what they follow. What they want for us, not from us, what they want for us is to literally fall onto one side by following our desires, exactly like what Iblis did. And Allah is going to mention an example of what Iblis wants from you and I to fulfill this verse at the very beginning, nearby the very end, nearby the end of this juz. Now, why does Allah have to start that way? He starts in a very harmonical manner and very loving and in a subtle way to explain to us. Allah doesn't have to explain Himself always, right? But when He starts this way, is to show us, look, I care about you and I love you and you are my servant, you are my creature. I am the one who created you. You are part of my majestic and perfect creation. Look at man today. Is there anything that beats the human mind? All philosophers and also psychologists and even scientists as well, no matter how much they've sat down, and scholars to define the human mind, none of them have been able to do so. For those who have wanted to define the human soul, which is part of the human body, because the body without a soul is just nothing. It's hollow. That's how it is. That's when Allah, when He was asked, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. Say that the soul is a matter related to my Lord. It's not related to mankind, and no one would have knowledge to that. Today we have this little knowledge and we feel we have everything. But out of love and out of Allah's His concern about us, worrying about our well-being, knowing that it's His responsibility to take care of us, and it's not about us to worry about this worldly life, thinking about where does sustenance come from, how are we going to protect ourselves. Allah guides us through our instincts, and on top of that through revelation mainly, which He has sent down upon us. The next thing that Allah now starts discussing, rather than talking about marital affairs, how man and woman or husband and wife protect one another by maintaining their rights and exercising that which is right for them, Allah first of all talks about wealth. Why wealth in specific? يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم. قتال, qatl and wealth, how do they really go hand in hand? You end up realizing wealth has become one of the main reasons that many families today, they are distorted. They are literally facing a dismantling, disunity, and on top of that, vengeance and enmity and hasad, and they want to engage and wage war against one another. When the parents pass away and leave behind a little bit of inheritance, what happened next? Each one of them is fighting for it. On top of that, people that they embark on a business, all right, and that business is more or less of a partnership type of business. What happened next is that if one side is profiting even more, the other one is trying to steal from the other one. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was providing us all of these, the next thing that He says is وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ عُدْوَانًا وَظُلْمًا. The person that will do that by taking away another person's life because of wealth, or taking away a person's rights of their wealth, and committing injustice on when it comes to someone's livelihood, فَسَوْفَ نُصْلِيهِ نَارًا. When a person does that out of vengeance, and on top of that, out of wrongdoing, by wrongdoing themselves, then that person, we will throw him in the hellfire. Before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to talk about what are the worldly punishments or verdicts of a person that commits certain heinous acts, He decides to literally reprimand them by telling them that your punishment before this world, I have already prepared it for you in the hereafter. May Allah not make us of those people. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about aklul amwal bil batil, that we eat other people's wealth with butlan, by taking it with injustice, and that which is not our right, we eat from it, we utilize it, we usurp it, and even beyond that, we don't even return it to the rightful owner who deserves and to whom it belongs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises a severe return and a severe punishment and a chastisement for these people. Then after that, after talking about that, Allah mentioned something extremely important. Well, immediately after that, وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا اكْتَسَبُوا وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا اكْتَسَبْنَ وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ على كل شيء شهيدا or إن الله كان بكل شيء عليما. Why does Allah have to say this? What's important about it? If you look at the issues that we face today, and I'm not saying this referring to a certain part of the world, I promise you I'm talking about the entire world today is facing this. Women want to become like men, and some men want to become like women by rights. And I'm just I'm stating the obvious. I'm not mentioning anything in terms of any types of bills or laws or names or type of legislations. I'm not talking about those at the moment. Women want to live like men by being the ones that literally who want to take the roles of men. Some men, they don't want to take their responsibilities. They want the women to do it, and they want to live like women. If you look at today's day and age, how in the 21st century specifically, how the world is being shaped itself is making men to become so soft that they would neglect their own responsibilities. And on top of that, women want to overcome men by taking that which does not belong to them. Whereas Allah wants a nuclear family to be built together with unity to a level where everyone takes their responsibilities without the other one transgressing or overcoming another person's responsibility, so that there can be a solid infrastructure when it comes to this nation. But that wouldn't happen if each one of these individuals do not have their rights explained to them manifestly by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with full manifestation. If Allah doesn't do that, then there will be a huge problem. Although there are those which are cultural norms, as long as those cultures, those norms do not go against the Islamic law in itself, then you end up realizing they're all fine. But if within them they might be fine, but within them there might be harm which cause someone or an individual or a society at large, those need to be abandoned. So we need to realize women should not desire the role of men, and men should not take the role of women, because some men, they don't desire, they take, whereas some women, they want, and they want to live like men. But all of us need to understand our roles. And let me tell you something. Can a man fall pregnant? No. Can a woman fall pregnant? Yes. Can a woman not fall pregnant unless there's something that happened, or Allah created them that way? But it's not within the nature of man to fall pregnant. Can a man become a woman? If you look at them in terms of gender, of course they cannot. No matter what happens, as the saying goes, if we die today and you go onto your grave, tomorrow archaeologists, when they remove our bodies from the earth, they're either going to define us as men or they're going to define us as women. There is no other type of gender, and there is no other type of definition that will come out there. Lakin, and then immediately Allah talks about the roles of men. How are men protected, and how can a man protect themselves? Now, when Allah was talking about the protection of the husband, He wasn't talking about the minor issues that are in the household. Remember, if you have a lady in your home, you have to allow her to live like a woman. If a woman yells, Umar ibn al-Khattab, isn't he the Khalifa whom a man came to him, a Sahabi, and wanted help from the Khalifa because the woman of this Sahabi or this man was doing what? Yelling at him so much. But that by the time he gets to Umar ibn Khattab, Umar ibn Khattab was found that his wife was yelling at him himself. Imagine that. That's the nature of a woman. You have to let her live like that. And women normally, sometimes they have their own days. They have certain days they cannot live fully as women, basically fully in tasks, fulfilling this or that. Remember, they get tired. They're human beings, and they're not like us as men. On top of that, Allah has given us certain responsibilities because we can handle them. And Allah has given women certain responsibilities because they can handle them. Is a woman better at taking care of children? Of course, it's within their nature. But are there exceptions? Of course they are. But when Allah was addressing issues over here, perhaps we can say those issues which are major ones, which can cause the severing of ties and the breakdown of a family. For example, وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ, a woman who is a rebel, a woman that literally goes out there and does not safeguard her chastity and herself, which belongs to her husband. A woman that does that, then there is an issue. First of all, فَعِظُوهُنْ, you have to do what? You have to talk to them beautifully, with harmony and love. But if not, then there are other measures that you take according to the law. But if you know that there is a way that this issue can be solved, that it has not gone beyond the limits, then فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ شِقَاقَ بَيْنِهِمَا, if you fear that there will be a separation between them two, and what's more important is maintaining the ties, making sure that families are together and they are not dismantled, what do you do? فَبَعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهَا. You come with a judge who is wise. Remember, the word hakam is not just a judge, someone that can come with a verdict. A good listener is someone with wisdom, hikmah. Remember, that's where you find it. So you don't just bring anyone or someone that comes from nowhere, or maybe a person from the family, and that person, they're not even learnt. That person, they have indulged themselves in the world so much. That person deserves they desire a lot of power. And then when you call them in to become the arbitrator, or maybe the arbiter of the matter, and settle it with harmony and peace, ensuring that there will be love in between, that person will favor the other side. Why bring them in the first place if you know they're going to ruin your family? It doesn't work that way. So what you do is you bring the right person. And if you don't find the right person from within the family, that's when you start seeking advice from the right people, from the head of societies, or maybe you can go to a alim, a scholar, so that they can become the arbitrage in between. Without arbitration and having these families handled with the right people, families are going to go downhill every day. I promise you. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not talk about only ties related to husband and wife. On top of that, in order to protect mankind from other people's animosity and envy and beyond that, Allah talks about how can you maintain good ties with your neighbors, with your parents, with your children, with your loved ones of your friends. And on top of that, even the people that are a little bit far from you, how do you bring them together? Immediately after mentioning these categories of people, the next thing that he does, he talks about wealth. الَّذِينَ يَبْخَلُونَ وَيَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبُخْلِ. Those who are stingy, they are in a state of stinginess, and then they command others to become stingy just like them, and they hide away, they conceal that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them from the favors. Can be knowledge, can be wealth, can be help, it can be of service, anything that it is. Those are people that Allah promised them, وَأَعْتَدْنَا لِلْكَافِرِينَ. Those who have done kufr ni'mah, they have rejected the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but not spending on those favors, just like how we said previously on the third juz, right? عَذَابًا مُهِينًا. Adhab that is so diminishing, so demeaning at the same time. It's so despiseful. It's such a despiseful adhab. You don't want to go through that. How does the adhab appear? It appears on this earth. People look at you as well. You don't want to give. What happens next? They classify you as a stingy person. They put you under a certain category of people, and you do not attain the hearts of these people. You cannot conquer the hearts. How did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam conquer the hearts of the Muslims, the hearts of the non-believers, the hearts of the people of Medina, the hearts of the people of Mecca, and beyond that, and even up to today? It's not because of how he was a prophet, but because of his generosity, how much he shared, how much love he gave, and how much of service that he was there for people. Just like the Sahaba who went to Rasulullah hoping that he would be the first one on the list to be loved by him, he ends up realizing that perhaps if I carry on asking, I might even be the last one. What do? Be of service to people, you're going to conquer their hearts. Be there for people. تستعبد قلوبهم كما علمني شيخي حفظه الله تعالى. The more you are of service for people, the more beloved you become to them, and the more you care about them, the more they are going to be there for you as well. So when you do that, it's unlikely for these people to attack you and not assist you in your life. Remember that. So in order for you to safeguard yourself, you need to take care of your neighbor. You need to share good things with your neighbor. You need to share a good family relationship at the same time. If you don't have all of those, tomorrow when you're in need, how do you protect yourself? Remember, man is a weak type of creation. If a man is a weak creature, they need to seek strength from other ways and other methods. And how do you seek strength from other means? You seek strength by allowing other human beings to be there for you of service, while you being there for them when they are in need, and not even when they're in need, at any time when you can do that possible, inshallah ta'ala. But then after that, what's more important is that things start changing. I'm going to let go of certain issues which relate to warfare and all of those. I'm just going to go to the preservation of life. If a man takes away the life of another person, what happens now? We're talking about individuals. Remember that if you look in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah did not talk about man in specific, Allah talked about a nation in specific. Because when He talked about qisas, when He talks about an eye for an eye, when He talked about ransom, when He talked about dear penalty, blood money, and all of those, He didn't talk about them individually. How does that happen? In fact, even the scholars of tafsir and also the ulama, when they look into these verses, they say that some of these verses are abolished with other verses also that have been provided for us ahead of us. But if you look at the verses in this surah of Surah An-Nisa, these verses, what they do when Allah has talked about وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ أَن يَقْتُلَ مُؤْمِنًا إِلَّا خَطَأً, and it's not upon, it hasn't been for a mu'min, a believing man or woman, to take away the life of another believing man or woman, except that it's by accident. When that accidentally happens, what do you do? How do you pay back the blood money? What happens next? In order to soothe the hearts of those whom have the deceased of the family, what you do is you pay a ransom for that. But if you do it on purpose, وَمَنْ يَقْتُلْ مُؤْمِنًا مُتَعَمِّدًا, what happens? فَجَزَاؤُهُ جَهَنَّمُ خَالِدًا فِيهَا. Their jaza, even before they go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this person deserves the same punishment, just like how they took away a life. Number one. Number two, in the hereafter, a severe punishment awaits them, and that is Jahannamu khalidan fiha. They're going to stay in Jahannam for a long time. وَغَضِبَ اللَّهُ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His wrath is upon those person, or on those people and that type of person. وَلَعَنَهُ, and he is literally expelled from the mercy of Allah. وَأَعَدَّ لَهُ عَذَابًا عَظِيمًا. Bear that in mind. Then after, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how do people preserve one another by not transgressing the boundaries of others, literally stepping on top of other people, taking other people's lives. And if you look at today, gang members, why are they doing all this? There's nothing to deter them that is serious. 36 years of jail imprisonment does not deter them from that. I literally myself found from one of my family members, from my in-laws, a man stayed in jail for more than 5-10 years, comes out, he commits murder out of vengeance just because he was imprisoned because of another person. He committed this act even before that, this heinous act, and just because that person bore witness that he yes did it, why did he bear witness for him to go in prison? What he decides to do is take away the life of the witness, and on top of that, what happens then, he goes back to jail again for another 30 years. Yes, it's going to be up to the end of his life, lakin was that enough to deter him from the punishment? Of course not. Think about it. If it wasn't enough, then what is the best of punishments that literally deter mankind from committing certain acts? Hence you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides something called justice. That's why He introduced something called adalah and qist on this earth. Now there is something called qist and there is something called adl. We're going to discuss this inshaAllah ta'ala for the next juz. Lakin when Allah introduces this, He introduces it in a very beautiful way. Before we go there, Iblis, he tipped the balance of justice completely. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created Adam for a greater purpose. But when Iblis found out that Adam is going to be a far more better creation than him, instead of abiding by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and saying, Ya Allah, you know best, and I abide and I literally hats off for you, Ya Allah, ala ayn wa ras, I'm going to follow you. What did he decide to do? The next thing, he decided to rebel. And on top of that, he asked Allah to grant him the ability to rebel by giving him long life and giving him the ability to do what he could do. And what does He promise? وَلَأُضِلَّنَّهُمْ. Remember when we talked about what? We talked about dalal. You find that there are people within themselves, they have shayateen that misguide them and make them follow their own desires, and they want others to be deviated and go astray just like them. And these people are the ones that shaitan promised that he would mislead them as much as they could, and he promised it severely with affirmation, وَلَأُضِلَّنَّهُمْ وَلَأُمَنِّيَنَّهُمْ وَلَآمُرَنَّهُمْ فَلَيُبَتِّكُنَّ آذَانَ الْأَنْعَامِ. That these are the people that will change the creation of Allah. What would they do? They will take the animals and cut off their ears. And beyond that, وَلَأُضِلَّنَّهُمْ وَلَآمُرَنَّهُمْ فَلَيُغَيِّرُنَّ خَلْقَ اللَّهِ. And I will command them that they will change that which Allah has created Himself. Like people today, a man who is a man changing their gender to become a woman, that is exactly what Iblis wants. You'll find someone claiming to be in the faith of Islam, but at the same time this person looks like a man but wants to be a woman at the same time. That's what Iblis promised in these verses. And if you don't pay attention, you end up finding that you fall into the pit of Iblis. And tomorrow when we go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does Allah promise? These people will be severely punished because they failed to understand that when Allah revealed these verses, He began to tell us that, look, I'm telling you this because I love you, O my servant. I love you as you are my own creation. I want you to be in safe hands. So in order for you to be safeguarded, because I've already provided you a community and also leadership that would safeguard you with justice, that leadership can literally implement all of these laws that I'm providing here for you as an individual. So in order for you to be protected, what needs to happen is that you need to take care of yourself with these laws. If you neglect them, this is what you face today. And it's exactly what we are seeing right now. So what you notice is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ended up talking about these issues, the next thing that you find is that Allah punishes these type of people on this earth because they end up regretting and falling into remorse so deeply, they become so regretful that they have no way back from their actions of what they've done. And to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't know what their end result would be like. That's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now starts talking about justice and adalah. And we cannot say something called justice. We know how to define it. Just being just and being a man of a woman of justice only comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not because someone else is doing something and they're not harming anyone but themselves alone. Let's say someone that does something which is against that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, and we say that as long as they're doing it for themselves and everyone has their right to do what they do, you think that is justice. That is not justice. And if you love that person, you teach them that which is right in order for them to be guided. That is what justice is, because that's exactly what Allah wants. So justice is not for you and I to define, it's that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided as guidance, what He wants from you and I. And when He introduced the issue of justice, He introduced it in such a subtle way in this juz in order to show us that, look, in order for you to understand how to be a just person, a person to be in adalah, to be a person of balance, let me introduce it to you and know exactly how to live in accordance to that which I provided you, so that in the next juz we shall be able to discuss exactly what qist means and adil means, and how do you not tip the balances. But one thing to mention and to conclude, by the end of the juz, you end up finding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the second last page, Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين. What's so important about that? What's so beautiful is the fact that today's day and age, many of us, you find that when they rule in their homes or maybe member of societies, they find their own children or spouses or maybe others committing mistakes, and they are not there to do what? To guide them and show them the right path. And even if they see their mistakes, they become oblivious and overlook them. Why so? Because they say, they're my family member, what can I do? There's nothing I can do, they don't deserve it. Isn't Rasulullah the same one that said, لو أن فاطمة بنت محمد لسرقت لقطعت يدها? Let alone the man that's literally facing punishment right now because it's a law from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if Fatima, the daughter of Rasulullah, was the one to do that action of theft, she would have had her hand severed from her wrist, her hand severed from her entire remainder of the arm. Think about it. What do you understand from this? The message is that there's no favoritism when it comes to justice. There's no favoritism when it comes to right and wrong. When we see our own family members committing mistakes, it's upon us to guide them. And if we're going to reprimand one person, we have to reprimand each one of them justly, and it doesn't matter who they are, because to the eyes of Allah and the sight of Ar-Rahman, it's always all of us gonna be the same. There is no difference. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us a people who are just to ourselves and others, and on top of that are people that literally understand that everything that Allah has sent upon us is out of His mercy and out of His love. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.